Since I visualized the plan to have the farm, I already had clear what kind of animals I wanted to have here. Because of the region where I was, tropical dry forest, Caribbean region, temperatures above 32 degrees, with relative humidity, quite high, above 90% in the winter season. In the dry season with a relative humidity a little lower, but with difficulties in any way with the climate. So we had to think of a breed, which was quite rustic and able to survive in this environment. That I had already researched about the breeds, and by the experiences of our family with other breeds, such as Brown Swiss, Brahman, we took the decision, or I took the decision, to work with the breed with two breeds originating from India and Pakistan, which are the Sahiwal and the Red Sindhi. Initially we started with the Sahiwal, but as time went by it became more complicated to obtain genetic material. Sahiwal, and we continued working with the Red Sindhi breed. They are two very similar breeds. They are millenary breeds, originally from India and Pakistan, as I said, from the most rugged area of those countries, very resistant to heat stress, which is what will affect us the most here in the area, and the shortage of pasture in the dry season. That is why we decided to work with those two breeds.
Es una raza de talla media. Son animales de talla media.
It is a medium-sized breed. They are medium-sized animals. They are not large animals. They are medium-sized animals. Red color. It is a red-colored zebu, ranging from red to lighter colors such as bay. One of its strengths is the size. They are animals that in adults, cows do not exceed 450 kilos and bulls can be weighing between 600 and 650 kilograms. Supremely resistant to heat.
Es una raza verdaderamente.
It is a truly specialized breed for dual purpose, because they produce milk and meat, and with the flexibility, depending on how the market moves, you can lean towards either, because they are not exaggerated productions in milk. We are talking about cows with an average of 2,000, 2,400 liters per lactation, 300 days, and weaning calves. With this type of production between 190 and 210 kilos for males, and females in 375 and 195 kilos. In the system that we manage, we have rotations, small paddocks. It is not an ultra-high-density grazing with scions, but it can be similar, and we manage totally independent from the cows. The calves are only with their mothers at milking time. At this moment we do two milkings. We do one milking in the morning and one milking in the afternoon, which is done by the calves. That is to say, the calves take the afternoon milking, and at this moment we are having productions between 6 and 6.5 liters per cow, 0.5 liters per cow. As for the calves' meat, they are really extremely precocious. Because of the management, they do not suffer from stress at weaning time. We are starting to take them to 300 kilos, in the other farm. Because of the way we are doing it, and we are really obtaining weight gains that are from birth to 300 kilos, in the order of 500, 550 grams per day.
500, 550 gramos por día.
The only way to maintain the load, constant throughout the year, is achieved only with irrigation. Here there is a very severe summer, accompanied by strong breezes and a lot of sunshine. Then, we have practically between 3 and 4 months of the year that the pastures that do not have irrigation are completely exhausted, Here we manage the two scenarios because I have some areas of the farm that I cannot irrigate because I simply do not have enough water, but there are others that do. Have irrigation, then, the area that is irrigated at the moment are 40 hectares and in those 40 hectares graze all the animals, which are these 160 animals that live here on my back, which are the cows. The irrigated area at this moment is 40 hectares and in those 40 hectares graze in those 3 or 4 difficult months, all the animals, which are these 160 animals that live here behind me, which are dry cows, some calving cows that due to their production are not in the production cow lot, in the other lot we only manage the cows, the milking cows, which are around 100 cows at the moment, with 100 calves that are also within the 40 hectares that we manage with irrigation. In this area of these 40 hectares, we manage to keep the animals during the 4 months of summer, and with this way, we keep the load constant and we cannot lower the load, because, due to the breed I have, I cannot sell the cows every time summer comes, or make a transhumance, because here I have nowhere to take them. Only have this property and there is no other place to take them, and I cannot sell them either because being a breed, let's say not much worked in Colombia, the effort I have made to make it where I am, for that reason we also manage the irrigation issue. It is necessary for the inventory that we manage is permanent. The inventory here is the same winter and summer. We manage the same animals in grazing. We do not make any type of supplementation other than supplementing the animals in milking. With totumo, we add mineralized salt and campano seeds if there is any at that time. We were giving some cassava, but at this moment due to the issues that are happening worldwide, cassava is also scarce and the price skyrocketed, so we could not supply cassava to the cows again. At this moment we are exclusively giving pasture, at this moment we are exclusively giving grass, totumo with salt, and at this moment the cows are calving, so we are giving bell seeds. That is basically the diet that we supply to the animals. We do not harvest grass, we do not make hay, we do not do anything, we only graze. The cows are in charge of harvesting the grass themselves.
Bueno, yo quiero hacer ampliar y decirle que
Well, I want to expand and tell you that we handle the concept of regenerative livestock. We belong to an association called ACOGANAR, which is the Association of Regenerative Cattlemen in Colombia, and the principle is to work hand in hand with nature.
El principio es trabajar de la mano con la naturaleza.
When I talk about working hand in hand with nature, is to do it as close to nature.
No usamos.
That is, we do not use agrochemicals. We do not use chemical fertilizers. We do not use ivermectin for livestock. Nothing that can affect the soil flora. And since we take so much care of the soil flora, the type of irrigation we do also had to be in accordance with what we do, and that is why this type of irrigation, which is not in a pond, keeps alive and active all the flora that the soil has. Today it is a sustainable cattle ranching, aiming at sustainability. We do not use any type of concentrate in the cows. The only supplement we give to the cows is totumo with salt, a normal mineralized salt used for livestock. Instead of pouring it in a pot, it is mixed in the daily ration of each animal, and we only do this type of supplementation with products produced on the same farm. We began to identify that on the farm there is a lot of totumo, and we noticed that the cows were eating the totumo that they managed to find broken, or even, there are some animals that by themselves, they take the totumos, they take them from the tree, they break them and eat them. We identified that. Then I saw a study that CPAP did, about the nutritional value and many other articles about totumo. We identified that, and then I saw a study made by CPAP about the nutritional value and many other articles about totumo. So we started to implement the supply of this fruit, which is abundant here in our property, which is enough. We can be harvesting in the 3 months of summer or 4 months between 30 and 40 tons of fruit, only of totumo pulp, and we try to give it to them. Sometimes I don't make it, because let's not say there comes a time when it doesn't come out as much. The advantage of the totumo is that its greatest production is in the dry months. That's when it helps us a lot, because that's when it harvests the most totumo, and when the rains are concentrated or in the part that is at risk there is also a lot of totumo. It produces, but it does not produce the same as when it is in summer. Contrary to what one believes, the stronger the summer, the more totumo it produces, so we take advantage of the strength that the plant gives us in the middle of summer and we take full advantage of it. We collect them green, ripe, in the state they are in. They are collected in sacks. Here there are people who collect them under contract. They pay between 300 and 400 pesos per bag of totumo. It is collected and taken to the house, and after it is stored, nothing happens to it if it is piled up for 8 to 10 days. In the afternoons, the same boy who collects it is in charge of breaking it. We supply it to the animals at the time of milking. That is what is given to the cattle, while they are at their milking station, and we supply the totumo with salt. In the identification of the breed, I had documented a lot about the breed. In Colombia it was very little worked, but they worked it in the areas of Magang, the Botero family. They worked something of Sahiwal. They talked a lot of good things about the breed and all the advantages it offered. I started obviously with a base of cattle, as they call here in the region, 7 colors or multiracial, which are of undefined breed, and based on those cows, I started to inseminate the Sahiwal breeds. And I began to obtain the animals we have today. As time went by, we began to identify all their strength, their hardiness, their precocity, and their reproduction. We have systematized the herd here. We manage the cattle software, and in the last 5 years we have 120 calvings per year. On average we have an interval between calvings of 380 days, a milk production of 1,900 liters per lactation in 300 days, an average weight at weaning in the last 10 years of 180 kilos for females and males. As I commented on another occasion, we do not use ivermectins here. We do not use agrochemicals. We do not use chemical synthesis fertilizers. We do everything according to nature. We try to copy what nature shows us. We are, as I said, working on the issue of regenerative livestock. In Colombia, there is an association called Acoganar, which is the pioneer in Colombia on the issue of regenerative livestock. It is an association brotherhood of people who are involved in this story, which really is not only a style of livestock, but it is a lifestyle of us farmers. Because we as farmers and as regenerative livestock farmers, we will make a key piece in the issue of global warming, because it will be demonstrated over time that the regenerative livestock is an important player, because through the livestock systems that we manage, we capture carbon through the management that we give. Livestock is demonized, because cattle ranching is a livestock that pollutes, because it is a livestock that does not graze, and on the contrary is a livestock that has to devote many tracts of land to produce food for those animals, which are stabled. We in the grazing livestock, every time the cow eats the pasture we capture carbon oxygen, through photosynthesis, through the leaves, and every time the pasture is renewed, It renews the root, and the soil are the biggest CO2 capturers that exist outside the sea. We are going to show, and I say in a short time, it is going to be demonstrated that this type of cattle raising is one of the best options that you are going to see for carbon capture. The prairie as such, there are studies that show that in the horizon of the first 60 centimeters of soil can be capturing up to 85 tons per hectare per year of carbon. If you have 100 hectares, you are talking about capturing 8,500 tons of CO2 per year on a farm for every 100 hectares. The most important thing is that our soils are very deteriorated. We have spoiled the soil. With the management, we have done extensive livestock. The animals grazing for a long time in a paddock. Here these animals entered this paddock and last 3-4 hours, and then they move on to the next paddock. So this is the way of managing the animals, massaging the soil, fertilizing it with their own excrement and urine, eating the grass, renewing roots, and at the same time returning all that organic matter to the soil and additionally capturing carbon. Where we are going to be positive, not only are we sustainable, but we are going to go beyond sustainability because we are going to contribute to environmental recovery through carbon capture. Methane, although it is true that cows produce methane through belching, not so much through feces and urine but through the cows belching. Methane has also been shown to last in the atmosphere for a maximum of 10 years versus more than 100 years that CO2 can last. That is to say that the effect generated by cows, when compared to the complete process, we are like this, in a positive balance, and showing that well-managed cattle raising. That regenerative cattle raising is the future of cattle raising, and that there will be another issue that will be even more important than milk and meat itself, which is the payment for carbon capture, carbon credits. That will be an issue that is still incipient, but not very far away. It will be reflected in our accounts, the carbon capture.
La captura de carbono. Hacerlo realmente es muy sencillo.
To make it really very simple, investments are not required, because you have a pasture. Today we have mobile fences, and with mobile fences you can start regenerative cattle raising, going from grazing. This pasture that I have, it takes me 5 days, you can graze it in the same 5 days but dividing it in successive paddocks, where the cattle will not stay but 1 day in each paddock or just hours. So really what you have to do is to be willing and unlearn what we had, because if we do not take that step, it will not be possible. What they say is that it is more work to make the fence. You yourselves documented how long it takes a person to make a fence, and I have to make it because I have high pastures, which force me to cut it so that the fence works, because if I leave it, the fence lands, and then the cattle will not respect it. For this to work, there are 3 elements that are key. First, that there is water available. It is important that each of the plots where the cattle are going to be must have water, that the fence is working, that there is a good fence, and for the animals to stay, that they have food. We cannot enclose some animals in a paddock. We are going to do it, but there is nothing to do. The animal will end up leaving the paddock. So if there is grass, the animal will be, look at them. You see them here at this moment relaxed. They are not thinking about whether they are going to the other paddock or not, because there is peace. These 3 elements are basic to be able to start implementing this animal concentration system. That concentration is what is really going to help us to have a better pasture, to recover the soil, and additionally the greatest benefit is that we are going to have important carbon capturers. Look, it is so simple. such as the deterioration of the pastures, that we subject them to this type of extensive and permanent cattle raising. That the cattle simply do what they do, the cattle, you in those pastures. The cattle are full of weeds because the cattle are not going to eat them, because as they are in the same paddock, then if you look at the paddock, today they eat it and tomorrow the first shoots come out. The cattle, if they are in the same paddock, they eat the same shoots, so the plants that I want to remain, the grain will be eating them all the time until they are finished, and those that are not eaten, remain. So when you see the lost paddocks, full of plants that the cattle do not really eat, but in a system like this is that you press the cattle eat everything, they do not have time to be selective, the cattle necessarily have to eat everything that you are offering them. They go from being a selective animal to a non-selective animal, it has to eat what is being offered to it, and you can see that in the pasture. Look at the quality of the pasture. This pasture is a little small because we did not have enough time to recover, but the change is total, the change is total. Here we do not fumigate, here everything that is born is received, and you realize that everything that is born the animals eat it, everything is food, but if you do not do it, in the way nature says it, we end up degrading the prairie and a cow always walking on the same land. When they are like that, it generates issues that all those few animals in such a small paddock compacts it, and it is the opposite. The cattle, when there are a lot of animals in a short time, what generates is a massage to the soil. On the other hand, animals in large extensions always walking in the same place for many days generates a real compaction and a deterioration of the prairie. My profession is a civil engineer. My life here in the Caribbean region, I worked in coal mining, completely extracting minerals, extracting the soil, and when I started the livestock issue, I knew that I had to compensate in something all that damage that causes one when doing coal mining, which is a mining activity that is completely extractive and destructive of the soil. I had in my clear objectives that what I was going to do, I had to do something that really was to cause the least impact. At least, that was sustainable, but when I saw the possibility that it could not only be sustainable but that it could help the environment, I did not hesitate to start working, and always thinking that I should never have used agrochemicals, because it happens in the beginning, and that I should never have used them, but I think that now that I have made up for it, and like the potato, every time I come here to the farm, the first thing I do is to kiss the soil, because I am saying that I am treating it well, I am trying to recover it in better condition than I received it.